Hello and welcome to the Football365 Show, brought to you by World Sportsbook Competition. From today we go weekly, which means that every Thursday there'll be a brand new show. Now, the winter break is officially over, and who better to celebrate that with than our two guests. We've got comedian, producer, Spurs fan and goalkeeper Stuart Laws, and editor-in-chief of the whole damn operation, Sarah Winterburn. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you don't like the show, then I don't know what to tell you. Enjoy! So we'll get stuck into it straight away with winners and losers. Now, the winners for this week, given what's happened with Man City and the fact that now 5th place might be up for grabs for Champions League, the winners have got to be every single team in the top half of the table who have now got something to play for.
Suddenly that window's open, doesn't it? It's all those teams made an absolute cocker this season. We've had massive mistakes at Spurs, Man United, Arsenal, all have had pretty poor seasons.
Yeah.
Suddenly it's rescuable, isn't it? That Champions League place, that 4th Champions League place drops down the league. You know, Man United can suddenly look like they've had a great season.
Absolutely.
As can even Arsenal.
Even Arsenal.
Even
Do
Arsenal.
you look as far down as Arsenal?
I think you have to look as far down as Arsenal.
Burnley as well then?
Same points.
Come on.
Let's not go mad.
No, I think Arsenal's form would suggest that they are capable of producing a little run to get in amongst it.
Yeah.
I think right now you'd be looking at Spurs and Man United. I think they're going to walk into this. I think Chelsea will drop out.
Yeah, okay.
And then you're going to have Man United and Spurs getting in there, and then making it look like they've had this brilliant season when actually we all know it's been a car crash pretty much from start to finish.
Fun though, isn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't
Stu,
it?
you're the Spurs fan.
Yeah.
Who do you see as being your main competition for this 4th and 5th spot?
It's United. It's both the Uniteds.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So you're bringing Sheffield United into this? Sarah
think
didn't
so.
mention Sheffield
Oh,
United.
I was thinking he meant Newcastle United.
Yeah.
Are you expecting a massive
A real big surge.
Once
a
Joe
classic.
Linson gets going, it's going to be...
Oh man, he's going to outperform XG so much for the end of the season.
Yeah, but you must be pretty confident now for Spurs' chances.
Yeah, I think Chelsea will drop out. I agree. And Man United are looking more and more like an actual team. And I mean, if Pogba does come back in, to have sort of Fernandes and Pogba
And McTominay and Rashford to come
Yeah.
back. They've actually got an all right side when you put them all in.
That's who I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Basically at this stage, you want a draw between Chelsea and United to sort of keep it open, but United went and did it.
Yeah, no, they did. And actually, they were all right, I thought. They weren't as bad as I expected them to be.
Well, they weren't as bad as Chelsea, crucially.
That leads us on quite nicely to the losers of the week, who, yeah, I mean, it's got to be Chelsea, hasn't it?
Losing this week and losing for a while, really. I mean, they're in what we generously call mid-table form. You know, they got themselves in 4th with a little run, sort of September, October. Never quite looked convincing, but just did enough to get in there. And they've kind of just been holding on while everyone else is kind of falling apart around them. And now they've caught up, haven't they? And I just can't see this Chelsea team putting together any kind of run between now and the end of the season.
I'd say they're an embarrassment to London.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
That seems fair.
I'm walking the streets and people look at me like, is that guy from London? And they constantly want to talk about how bad Chelsea are.
Yeah.
It's awful.
I'm sorry about your loss.
That's all right, that's fine.
Yeah. But Chelsea, I think you've got to be a little bit sympathetic, haven't you? I mean, all right.
Do you?
You do. I'll tell you why. Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because it is still a new manager. Look, come on. It's a new manager still. They've got a lot of injuries. They've got no strikers.
I mean, they do have strikers, but Frank Lampard, in his wisdom, has decided not to use them.
Well, I thought that
Olivier Giroud.
If he wasn't at Chelsea, they'd have tried to sign him in the transfer window.
Oh, absolutely.
He's better than anything they've got.
He's exactly the profile of the player that they. You know, somebody's sitting sitting around going, "Who's that guy who scored loads of goals? And he's really tall. You know, he crossed the ball a lot. This will really work."
Who led the line for the World Cup winners?
We've got him.
Let's get him in.
I don't get it. I just don't understand it.
Also, Batshuayi suddenly becoming a main striker. He's great if you need to bring him on to replace Abraham for 15 minutes. Give Abraham a bit of a break, but to do a whole game, the guy, I don't know, he just hasn't got it for that sort of team.
No, he can't. I don't think he can lead a line for
No.
a top team. Another problem Chelsea have got seems to be that their exciting, vibrant core of young English players seem to have gone off the boil a little bit. Is that fair to say?
I think some of them are knackered. I think they're playing a sort of intensity of football that most of them are not used to. I think there's a certain element of while things are going well, you know, young players are great to have around when things are going well because they've got that enthusiasm and that, you know, they'll take you through, you know, a few months of playing well. When things start going badly, they're probably not the players you want in there.
No. But again, you've got to give them some leeway. Surely.
I mean, you keep saying this, but...
Why are you so aggressive towards the young English core?
Also, their second straight, or the players that step into those positions are far older, so they're being asked to play this style that is asking a lot of these young players who are then getting burnt out, and then the older players are stepping in and can't sort of maintain.
So hence
those
Willian
levels.
and Pedro both.
I mean, I think we're glossing over the real problem here is that they have a manager who's not really a manager.
Right. Well.
I think there is no discernible way to Chelsea's play. There's nothing. You never watch it and think, oh yeah, I see what they're doing there.
Okay. Well,
it's sort of chaos and attacking, and when that sort of goes wrong. It's all right when people are finishing, isn't it? It's great when you've got Tammy Abraham in a little run of form. He's finishing everything in front of him. As soon as that goes, that pattern of play becomes more important, and they don't have it.
Pretty damning from you, Winterburn.
Always.
I'm not sure. So there we go then. That's the winners and losers for this week. It's now time for Mailbox.
Who's that? Who's that guy?
Don't worry about it. Right, letter for this week. This is from Richard MCFC. This is called A City...
Who does he support?
It all will become clear. This is called, and this will be a clue as well, this is called A City Fan's Take. It's Man City. His letter says, I'm assuming the majority of my fellow City fans are going to be upset about the Champions League ban, but overall, City fans should accept this decision. We should welcome it. Whether or not our lawyers find technicalities to overturn or reduce this ban, this is the moment we should all finally realise this needs to stop. The FFP rules may be flawed, but they were clearly designed to stop owners pouring money into clubs in a way that distorts the game and is unsustainable for the club, which is exactly what our owners have been doing. City is a big club and well placed to compete at the upper levels of the English game most of the time. Let's have that rather than some shame of what we've become. That's Richard MCFC, hopefully talking about Man City.
That was all very sensible, wasn't it?
Really sensible.
Worryingly sensible.
Heavily edited, by the way. It's a great letter. If you get a chance, go and read the whole thing on Football365.com. But I think that is an interesting take and probably quite sensible. Stu Laws, what do you think?
It's horribly balanced.
Yeah.
There's no place for that in football, is there?
No, there really isn't.
No,
feels like
where's the tribalism?
No. Well, maybe the bit we've cut out is...
There's a bit at the bottom that just says, F you, UEFA.
Yeah, it might be. But where do you stand on the whole Man City thing? I mean, do you think this is just chickens come home to roost, or is that they've been unlucky, or what?
It feels great.
It feels great.
It feels really great. I remember when Spurs stopped them getting in the Champions League all those years ago.
Yes.
And it was like, great, we've delayed them by 1 year from this great project.
Yeah.
And now they have financially doped. That is it.
Where do you stand on this, what I think is a ludicrous idea of stripping them of titles? Do you think that is something you want to delve into, or is that just madness?
I'm with you. Madness, ludicrous. Move on.
Oh, me?
Yes, you.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
new host.
Well, what happens next then?
Yeah.
Well, the amount they're saving on my fee. They're not getting anyone else in, don't worry. Where do they go from here, though? I mean, this is, again, speculation. Let's assume the 2 years is upheld, because they will appeal. Who stays, who goes? Does anyone go? Does Aguero want to stay for the twilight of his career at a club without Champions League football?
I think Arteta's first out the door.
Yeah. So we recorded this in March of last year. Sarah, who stays, who goes?
I think you're talking about Sergio Aguero. I think his plan was always to leave anyway and go back to Argentina. I think that they may hasten his departure. I think the majority will stay. I think they're very much married to the, as we're obliged to call it, the project. There will be a few casualties. I think it'll be more a case of who are they not going to be able to attract. You know, I think it might be more about the signings coming in.
Okay.
You know, the calibre of player they can get in. Obviously, the biggest question is, does Pep stay?
Well, okay, well, that's what I was going to ask.
I think what you're going to see is he'll stay for the next year. I think he's made it quite clear his contract is up next summer. I think that will be it.
So you don't see a new contract being signed by him as a direct result of this, or do you think generally he wasn't going to stay?
I think generally he wasn't going to stay anyway. He didn't stay at Bayern very long. He wanted a rest after that. You know, he wanted a rest after Barca. I think it's a very intense job, and I think he will want a little break afterwards.
Right.
So I think he will do this year. I think the challenge of overhauling Liverpool will keep him here for this one season.
So yeah, I mean, what happens with Liverpool and Man City going forward? Because to me, this is a huge boost for Liverpool. Enormous. They've got a manager who seems to want to be there for as long as possible, a really settled team, a really good squad, obviously. And now it looks like one less contender next season. I mean, City will be there, but without attracting the same players, is it going to be as difficult a task?
I feel like Sterling's going to go anyway.
You think Sterling's going to go?
Yeah.
I think he's a very ambitious player, and he's talked previously about playing in Spain. I think
How old is he? 24, 25?
A little, I think maybe 25. Yeah, he's spoken before. I mean, you can see him going to a Real Madrid style club, and I think he would relish that anyway. I think that was probably on the horizon.
Right.
I think there are others who will remain loyal, and as you questioned before, I think if they can keep that same core of players together, there is an argument that obviously if the Champions League is not distracting them, that they can
dominate,
put all their eggs in the basket.
And I do wonder what would happen with Liverpool, because what they're doing is extraordinary, but teams based on sort of cult-like sort of leadership do have a habit of burning out at a certain point, and they didn't refresh the team.
You do get the sense of this Liverpool side that this is the culmination of the last 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
As you know yourself, once something comes to a culmination, it's then quite difficult to go again, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The end of their cycle, and it seems like this is going to end in glory.
You talking about Derby there?
I was talking about orgasms, but...
Okay.
Yeah.
I was assuming you meant orgasms.
Yeah.
Right, that's it for Mailbox this week. If you've got anything you want to tell us, email us at theeditor@football365.com.
And that goes straight through to you?
No, I don't even have a phone or a computer.
I've heard that about you.
They won't let me have one anymore.
No.
And now for a brand new feature to Football 365. This is called Worst Take of the Week. Very simply, this is where we scour the football world looking for the worst opinions. This could be from a manager or a player or just an anonymous egg on Twitter. And this week, pretty easy, Dan Gosling. Sarah, talk to me.
The result of an egg.
The result of an egg. Good bird play.
I don't know how to follow that.
Don't. Just bask in it. Dan Gosling, what do we think? Because you seemed, we mentioned this before the show, you seemed like you might have something to say about this. Shall I read the quote from Dan Gosling?
Oh yes,
would
please
that help?
do that. Could you do it in Dan Gosling's voice?
I cannot, but this is about an altercation he thinks he had with John Moss, the referee.
But the key thing is he thinks he had, I think.
He thinks he had. So Dan Gosling said, I thought he was a disgrace. The comments that he made, especially to me and one other player, talking about the relegation zone, and you're still in the relegation zone, you're having one, your team's having one, this and that, and it was very, very disrespectful.
I like the this and that.
Yeah.
This and that.
I think that's a PR team of people.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
like a Victorian.
Yeah. In what way?
Oh, just his tackling style.
Oh, right, that's it. You saved it there. Fair play. Sarah Gosling, shoot.
The preciousness of this is astonishing, isn't it? You know, football is since time immemorial, and I'll count myself amongst that. I've effed and blinded at referees constantly throughout 90 minutes of every game. And this guy's obviously just gone, yeah, right, you want to concentrate on your team, mate, that's shit. And he's gone, oh God, you can't say that.
Yeah, mad.
It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? And to say that after a game you've lost as well, it's like, you look like a right dick.
Yeah, don't do that after you've lost.
No.
If you've won 3-0,
The only way that anecdote works is if at the end you go, and then I showed him.
Yeah.
But no, there's no showing, is there? There's a kind of just a,
No.
you've been nasty to me.
It just strikes me as being maybe the most pathetic thing that I've ever heard.
Is it?
In a football setting. I think, because like Sarah says, that referees have got to endure so much of this non-stop. And, you know, when you look at lower leagues and non-league and kids' leagues where referees are feeling threatened at times, for this now to be in the papers that Gosling's upset.
I mean, who hasn't threatened a referee for a start?
Well, today.
Well, I'm retired, so I haven't
Retired from
I've threatened a
abusing
couple
referees.
today.
Yeah.
Stuart, you play football.
Yeah.
Have you ever had an altercation with a referee? Have you ever complained about a referee's actions on the field?
I managed the team for a season once, and we did put in a complaint about one because they were just so bad.
Oh right, but they weren't being nasty to you.
They weren't being
You
nasty.
turn around and say, you're having one, aren't you? This and that.
No, that's it. You do
I'm
get
not sure
them
this and
after
that
the
was part
game.
of the referee's comment.
This and that.
I don't think it was. Let me just double check. No, that's Dan Gosling's.
I think as a goalkeeper, you
You're generally
leave
away
yourself
from it, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you don't get to. I mean, if you run the length of the field to
get
abuse
involved.
the referee, you look like a
Yeah, an idiot.
Yeah.
We've got one guy, he's a Spurs fan, who does, he gives it a bit afterwards. But he said one time, I'm struggling to referee the game today because I just enjoyed watching you play so much. That was a nice thing.
What a lovely
anyway,
moment.
I reported him for...
Yeah, getting too close.
That's too much.
Don't become the story.
You feel like you're being groomed. I think.
Yeah, well, we've been married now for four years.
Good stuff. Well, thus concludes our inaugural Worst Take of the Week. Now it's time for Big Weekend. And finally, we've got a full schedule of games again.
Isn't it lovely?
It is lovely. Last 2 weekends, they were fine. But we've got a proper big weekend again. So the first one I want to look at, Chelsea Spurs. As Spurs supporter, and the only Spurs supporter in the room, how are you feeling about this one?
Well, we've been here before this season. Chance to overtake Chelsea to get into the Champions League spots and absolutely blew it. But I think we're going to do it this time. I feel like he's sort of found a midfield that's working now, and that's quite exciting as a Harry Winks fan to sort of see him make that big step on.
I love Harry Winks.
I love Harry Winks.
Can I just say, I love Harry Winks.
I think he was stifled. He had to play alongside Sissoko.
I like to call him Little Harry Winks.
Little guy from Hemel.
Little Harry Winks from Hemel.
They've got a laser quest there. What's that, Quasar laser?
Don't worry,
I'm getting distracted.
Sarah, what do you think about Spurs Chelsea? Do you agree with Stu? They're going to overturn Chelsea?
I think they will. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, crucially, they do have a manager, which helps, and a plan.
Stop sticking the boot in on Chelsea.
I can't help it. I was just like, no.
Do you like Winks? Do you think he's a good progressive midfielder?
I think he's a lovely little player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's always criticised for only playing sideways balls and sort of 5-6 yard balls, but you saw it at the weekend, that ball for Bergwijn, he sort of picked it up just outside his area and spotted that sort of 35 yard
He
ball.
reminds me an awful lot of, you might not like this, but it reminds me an awful lot of Jack Wilshere, who, when he first came through, what a beautiful player to watch. Yeah. That sort of lightness of feet, sort of on the half turn, kind of looking for things, not an English type player. And it is lovely to see. It doesn't always work.
No, but we don't have that many players that can control a tempo that way. He seems to have this very mature head on his shoulders. He knows when to slow it down, knows how to speed it up, quick ball. I think he's an outstanding player.
I think having Lo Celso next to him is someone as well who is, his defensive aspect is sort of underrated. He's sort of quite tenacious and he's sort of quite positionally aware, and I think it's taken a while for him to realise that he's played centre midfield in Spain for ages, and we were playing him too far up the pitch.
So you're confident in Spurs on the weekend, but you're also confident going forward, despite having no real strikers at the moment. I mean, Kane's gone.
What?
Son's gone.
We need to record.
Kane's out.
Again, we are recording.
We need
in
to
March.
record this again, don't we?
Yeah.
Are you confident? No, it's a disaster.
It's a worry, but I'm hoping the sort of fluid, sort of no striker system works.
Do you believe that? Do you believe Jose when he says that Son and Kane could be out for the season?
No.
Do you believe that? Is this just Jose being Jose, Sarah?
I think there's a certain element of Jose being Jose. He's gone straight into this "the world's against us" stuff, hasn't he? Which is beautiful, epic, classic Jose. Of what can I do? What can I do? I've got nothing, and you're kind of going, well, you've got quite a lot of players really, but he loves this, doesn't he? Of like, what could possibly go wrong? Nothing else could go wrong. It's almost like they couldn't have signed anyone in January, could they?
Yeah.
I mean, what could they possibly have done in January to stop this happening?
Moving on then, Leicester are at home to Man City. Talk to me. Can you hear me?
I think Man City will win. I think Leicester are on the slide. I think they're losing. They've got 3 of their key midfielders are out, basically.
So you think Leicester are on the slide, you think Chelsea are on the slide, Spurs are on the up. So what, Spurs going to finish third?
I think there's a strong chance of it.
Come on, mate. They're 10
cheeky,
points
it's
off.
cheeky.
It is cheeky.
Hey.
Are they going to finish third?
I think they finished
Leicester aren't going
third.
to drop that much, are they? And
No, I think they've got the gap there, Leicester, and it's a good job because they are on the slide. I think they've, as we like to say, they've been found out. They're missing Wilfred Ndidi, massive miss. As soon as he's out, everybody then seems to, nobody really trusts anyone else in that position, so they all sort of drop back a little bit, and then it leaves Jamie Vardy even more isolated. They can't get near him. Maddison drops back, and they were sort of defying the odds when they were winning all those games. It didn't make sense, really. Yeah. When you looked, you kind of couldn't work out why they were so good. And there was an element of just having a really good finisher. Absolutely. And if they're not creating those chances anymore, then...
I do feel like the Maddison-Grealish comparisons maybe taken a toll on Maddison.
He's not won, has he? I think that's they were sort of set head to head as this kind of battle for the number 10 position for England, which doesn't actually exist, by the way. So they're battling for a sort of a phantom position. But Grealish has sort of risen to that, hasn't he? And maybe part of that is because Grealish, plays for his hometown club. He also, they're fighting relegation. He's the main man, undoubtedly the main man in that team, and it obviously suits him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Maddison, I don't think he's as good as Grealish.
I feel like Maddison exists in between the lines, and Grealish is someone who's sort of, he can play left wing, he can play sort of the tip of a midfield three, and he's someone that can sort of transition between there, whereas Maddison feels like he's got to sit in that little gap.
I think Grealish is a more he might be immature off the pitch, but I think he's a more mature player on the pitch in terms of.
He's a leader, isn't he?
In terms of he can, like you say, he can play anywhere across the midfield and even behind a striker or on the left wing. I think he's more intelligent, footballistically, as they say.
So you both think Spurs to beat Chelsea and City to beat Leicester? Okay. Moving on then to Southampton at home to Villa. 6 weeks ago, this looked like a proper relegation scrap, but Southampton have pulled out of that a little bit, and now the onus seems to be on Villa to do the same. How do you see this one going?
Southampton are very much 2 steps forward, 1 step back, aren't they? It's really difficult to predict what they're going to do.
But that's still a step forward on aggregate.
Yes.
So it's still good.
On away goals. Yeah, so they're going to win on away goals. No, wait a minute.
At home. They're going to win on away goals.
They're going to win away goals.
Answer my question.
Oh, I don't know.
Southampton home to Villa.
I think it's going to be a draw.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw.
Ooh.
Okay.
Villa terrible defensively.
Really poor.
Really
poor
bad.
defensively.
Heartbreakingly bad defensively.
But Mings will be back, right?
Sorry?
Mings will be back.
I think so. Mings was only out with tonsillitis, was it?
Yeah.
So I think he might be back.
It's so weird when a footballer goes out with something like that, like a normal person.
Like when the bracket says tonsillitis instead of knee.
What's going on there?
Yeah.
It feels a bit queasy.
Yeah.
He's got a sore throat. I mean,
Come on, guys.
I think
Come on.
Southampton will do it.
Southampton to win that one and Villa to
Yeah.
be plunged further into relegation
It's a
hell.
worry. It's a worry because I like Villa. They seem like a good team. And
Yeah. Okay, so there we have it then. So you've gone for Villa, City and Spurs all to win. Was that the same as you, Sarah? I forget.
Draw.
It doesn't matter. That's it for the Football365 show this week. We'll be back next Thursday. Until then, thanks to our guest Stuart Laws. Thanks, Sarah Winterburn. Until next time, goodbye.
goodbye.